Welcome back to Rare CoinX Secret, where the most valuable treasures are often hiding in plain sight. Every day, millions of coins pass through people's hands without a second glance, but some of them are worth hundreds, thousands, or even life-changing amounts of money. That's what this channel is all about, helping you discover the hidden value inside ordinary US coins. In today's video, we're taking a closer look at 3 extraordinary Kennedy half dollars that have become legendary among collectors. Whether it's a rare mint era, a low mintage issue, or an exceptional high-grade example, these coins have achieved remarkable values at auctions and continue to attract serious attention from coin enthusiasts. Before you spend another $50 or overlook an old coin collection, watch this video until the very end. One of these rare Kennedy half dollars could already be sitting in your pocket, a family coin jar, or an inherited collection. Let's get started with our first incredible coin. 1964 D Kennedy half dollar, 90% silver. Have you ever wondered whether a single coin tucked away in an old dresser drawer, forgotten inside a dusty piggy bank, or hidden at the bottom of your grandparents' coin jar could be worth far more than 50 cents? Most people see a Kennedy half dollar and think it's simply another old piece of pocket change. They spend it without a second thought or leave it forgotten for decades. But what if one tiny detail could transform an ordinary-looking coin into a collector's dream? What if a single strike, a rare die variety, or an almost invisible error could turn that forgotten half dollar into a prize worth thousands of dollars? Today we're uncovering the incredible story of the 1964 D Kennedy half dollar, one of America's most famous silver coins. Born during one of the nation's most emotional moments, this coin carries history, patriotism, and mystery in equal measure. But here's where things get interesting. Hidden among the millions produced at the Denver Mint are examples that collectors eagerly search for, and some have sold for astonishing prices. Most people never notice the tiny details that separate an ordinary coin from an extraordinary one. Stay with us until the end, because the highest value examples may leave you speechless, and you might already own one without realizing it. The story of the 1964 D Kennedy half dollar begins with heartbreak. In November 1963, President John F. Kennedy was assassinated, leaving the United States in mourning. The nation wanted a lasting tribute to its fallen leader, and the U.S. Mint moved with remarkable speed. Within months, a completely new half dollar bearing Kennedy's portrait was approved and prepared for production. By early 1964, presses were already striking the first Kennedy half dollars, making it one of the fastest coin redesigns in American history. The Denver Mint joined the Philadelphia Mint in producing these coins, and every Denver example carries a small D mint mark on the reverse beneath the eagle's tail feathers. Unlike later Kennedy half dollars, every 1964 issue contains 90% silver and 10% copper. Each coin weighs 12.5 grams, measures 30.6 millimeters in diameter, and has a reeded edge with 150 reeds. This silver composition gives the coin a distinctive white luster and a satisfying ring that collectors immediately recognize. Even worn examples are valued above face value because of their silver content, but condition and rarity can increase that value dramatically. The obverse features a striking portrait of President Kennedy created by Chief Engraver Gilroy Roberts. Kennedy faces left with remarkable realism, while the word Liberty curves around the rim and the date 1964 sits below the bust. The national motto, "In God We Trust," is elegantly divided by the portrait. When viewed under proper lighting, a sharply struck example reveals intricate hair details above the ear and around the temple. These tiny strands often determine whether a coin receives an exceptional grade. Turn the coin over, and you'll find one of the most detailed reverse designs ever placed on a circulating U.S. coin. Designed by Frank Gasparo, it displays the presidential seal with a majestic heraldic eagle clutching arrows and an olive branch. Above the eagle shines a constellation of stars surrounded by rays, while United States of America and half dollar circle the rim. Just below the eagle's tail feathers sits the small D mint mark, identifying the Denver Mint. Most people never notice this tiny letter, yet it immediately tells collectors where the coin was struck and places it within one of the most historically significant mintages in American coinage. More than 156 million Kennedy half dollars were struck at the Denver Mint in 1964, making the issue common in circulated grades. At first glance, that number suggests the coin should never be valuable. But here's where things get interesting. Collectors don't simply chase mintage numbers. They pursue quality, rarity within condition, unusual striking characteristics, and fascinating mint errors that escaped into circulation. Among the most desirable pieces are those with exceptional mint luster, razor-sharp strikes, and nearly flawless surfaces. High-grade mint state examples certified MS-67 and above become increasingly scarce because so many coins were heavily handled or stored carelessly. The difference between an average uncirculated coin and a superb gem can amount to thousands of dollars. Even more exciting are the rare mint errors and varieties. Some 1964 D Kennedy half dollars display dramatic die cracks running across the design, while others feature retained cud errors where broken portions of the die create raised blobs of metal along the rim. Off-center strikes, clipped planchets, broad strikes, and double strikes are also known, though they are genuinely scarce. These dramatic mistakes occurred during the minting process when planchets or dies failed to align perfectly. What happened next shocked collectors, because these accidental creations eventually became some of the most sought-after Kennedy half dollars ever released. And that's only the beginning. In the next section, we'll reveal the valuable doubled dies, repunched mint marks, and other elusive varieties, explain exactly how to identify the most valuable examples, and uncover the auction records that prove why certain 1964 D Kennedy half dollars have captured the attention of collectors around the world. Next up. 1974 Kennedy half dollar, no mint mark. Imagine reaching into an old coin jar that has been sitting untouched for decades. You brush away the dust, pour a handful of coins onto the table, and among the nickels, pennies, and quarters, one large half dollar catches your eye. At first glance, it looks ordinary. It's dated 1974, and surprisingly, there's no mint mark beneath the eagle on the reverse. Most people would assume it's worth exactly 50 cents before tossing it back into circulation. But what if that assumption was completely wrong? What if that seemingly ordinary Kennedy half dollar held a secret that collectors have spent years searching for? What if one tiny detail, almost invisible without careful inspection, could mean the difference between pocket change and a coin worth hundreds, thousands, or even tens of thousands of dollars? Today, we're uncovering the fascinating story of the 1974 Kennedy half dollar struck at the Philadelphia Mint, a coin surrounded by history, hidden varieties, remarkable mint errors, and auction surprises. But here's where things get interesting. Although millions were produced, only a tiny fraction possess the qualities that serious collectors are willing to pay extraordinary money to own. Stay with us until the very end, because the highest value examples may leave you speechless, and the next coin you discover could change the way you look at your collection forever. The story of the 1974 Kennedy half dollar begins more than a decade after the tragic loss of President John F. Kennedy. Introduced in 1964 as a national tribute, the Kennedy half dollar quickly became one of the most recognized coins in American history. By 1974, the initial excitement had faded, and half dollars were no longer widely used in everyday commerce. Many Americans tucked them away in drawers, jars, and family collections instead of spending them. That simple habit preserved countless examples for future generations, but it also created an unexpected opportunity for collectors searching for exceptional pieces. The coin discussed today carries no mint mark, meaning it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. During 1974, Philadelphia still omitted its mint mark from circulating half dollars, making the absence of a letter beneath the eagle's tail feathers the correct identification for this issue. The coin is composed of a copper-nickel-clad alloy rather than silver, with outer layers of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a pure copper core. It weighs 11.34 grams, measures 30.6 millimeters in diameter, and features a reeded edge. While it lacks silver content, its collectible value comes from rarity in high grades, unusual mint errors, and scarce die varieties rather than precious metal. The obverse showcases Gilroy Roberts' elegant portrait of President Kennedy facing left. Liberty stretches boldly around the rim, while In God We Trust is divided beneath the portrait, and the date 1974 anchors the bottom of the design. Under magnification, the finest examples reveal crisp hair strands, sharply defined facial contours, and smooth mint frost. These subtle details become critically important because grading services reward exceptional strike quality and preservation, dramatically increasing a coin's value. The reverse, designed by Frank Gasparo, features the presidential seal with a majestic eagle spreading its wings across the field. The eagle grasps arrows and an olive branch, symbolizing America's readiness for both defense and peace. 50 stars surround the design, while United States of America and $50 frame the rim. Most people never notice this, but the missing mint mark is actually the identifying feature of a Philadelphia issue. Many beginners mistakenly believe the absence of a mint mark is an error. In reality, for 1974 Philadelphia coins, that is exactly how the coin was intended to leave the mint. With more than 201 million Philadelphia examples produced, it might seem impossible for any 1974 Kennedy $50 to command impressive prices. But here's where things get interesting. The vast majority entered circulation, where bag marks, scratches, and weak strikes quickly reduced their quality. Truly pristine examples with blazing mint luster, razor-sharp details, and virtually flawless surfaces are surprisingly scarce today. The difference between an average circulated coin and a superb gem-certified specimen can be enormous, turning an ordinary-looking $50 into a prize that serious collectors fiercely compete to own. As if condition rarity weren't enough, the minting process also produced a fascinating group of genuine errors. Off-center strikes, clipped planchets, broad strikes, struck-through errors, die cracks, retained cuds, and dramatic double strikes all exist for this date. These mint-made mistakes occurred when the presses operated under less than perfect conditions, creating coins unlike any others. What happened next shocked collectors, because these accidental creations eventually became some of the most desirable modern Kennedy $50 in the hobby. And we've only begun to uncover the story. In the next part, we'll explore the most valuable 1974 no-mint mark Kennedy $50 varieties, reveal how to identify the examples worth the most money, examine real auction records, expose common counterfeit tricks, and explain why a handful of these coins have stunned the numismatic world with their remarkable values. Next up. 1993 D. Kennedy $50. Have you ever looked at a Kennedy $50 from the early 1990s and wondered if it was hiding a secret worth far more than its face value? Most people glance at these large coins, assume they're common, and toss them into a drawer without another thought. But every once in a while, an ordinary-looking coin reveals an extraordinary story. Imagine discovering that a 50-cent piece sitting unnoticed in an old collection or forgotten bankroll could attract serious attention from collectors across the country. It sounds unbelievable, yet that is exactly why the 1993 D. Kennedy $50 continues to fascinate numismatists today. While millions were struck, only a tiny number survived in exceptional condition or left the mint with dramatic production errors. But here's where things get interesting. The smallest detail, a brilliant strike, an unusual die variety, or a rare mint-made mistake, can completely transform its value. Most people never notice these clues, and countless valuable coins have likely been spent simply because no one knew what to look for. Stay with us, because what happened next shocked collectors, and the highest value examples may leave you speechless. The 1993 D. Kennedy $50 was struck at the Denver Mint during a period when $50 were rarely seen in everyday circulation. Unlike the famous 1964 issues, this coin was not made of silver. Instead, it features a copper core sandwiched between outer layers of copper and nickel, giving it the familiar silver-colored appearance while keeping production costs lower. Each coin weighs 11.34 grams, measures 30.6 millimeters in diameter, and has a reeded edge. The small D mint mark appears on the obverse to the right of Kennedy's neck, just above the date, identifying it as a Denver Mint issue. The obverse displays Gilroy Roberts' timeless portrait of President John F. Kennedy. His profile faces left beneath the bold inscription Liberty, while In God We Trust curves gracefully below the portrait, and the date 1993 anchors the bottom of the design. On sharply struck examples, individual hair strands, crisp lettering, and satiny mint luster create a remarkable appearance that grading services reward with premium grades. Turning the coin over reveals Frank Gasparo's detailed presidential seal. The eagle spreads its wings proudly while holding arrows and an olive branch, symbolizing strength and peace. A ring of stars surrounds the eagle, and the inscriptions United States of America and $50 complete the reverse. At first glance, every 1993 D. Kennedy $50 appears nearly identical, but here's where things get interesting. Under magnification, subtle differences in strike quality, die condition, and surface preservation begin to separate ordinary coins from the elite examples that collectors pursue. The Denver Mint produced tens of millions of these coins, making circulated examples relatively common. However, most entered commerce and accumulated scratches, contact marks, and worn surfaces. Finding a coin with blazing original luster, virtually flawless fields, and razor-sharp details is much more difficult than many people realize. This tiny detail could change everything because condition rarity often determines whether a coin is worth only face value or commands hundreds, or even thousands, of dollars at auction. Collectors also search for genuine mint errors associated with this issue. Off-center strikes, broad strikes, clipped planchets, struck-through errors, die cracks, retained cuds, and dramatic double strikes are among the most desirable. These mistakes occurred during the minting process and escaped quality control before entering circulation. What happened next shocked collectors, as some of these unusual pieces became prized additions to advanced Kennedy $50 collections. In the next section, we'll examine the most valuable 1993 D varieties and mint errors, explain how to identify the examples worth the most money, reveal documented auction prices for top-graded coins, expose common counterfeit tricks, and uncover the hidden details that most people never notice, but experienced collectors search for immediately.